jersey? Were you eyeing him up in the final run into the finish, given that you're tied on time and you keep swapping back and forth based on placing?
No, I didn't talk to Christian. I wasn't focused on keeping the jersey today. I was focused on staying at the front, staying ahead of the crashes, out of trouble, ahead of time gaps. And I didn't. Christian wasn't on my mind. Coming into the finish, it was just staying on the bike and staying in a good position and not losing anything.
On the front, and we'd like to restrict the questions for the news of the day and also the event, if you can respect the athletes on that.
Tejay, have you trained at Flagstaff with Christian before?
I've trained up Flagstaff many times, but never with Christian.
Okay. I thought you guys had gone together or something. No.
Other questions for Tejay before we release him? He's going up to Denver. Any final question in the back?
Tejay, you mentioned you were confident in your abilities going into the final time trial. With the stage tomorrow, will you try to mark the guys? I mean, and how worried are you about holding on to Tom and Christian?
Yeah, tomorrow's going to be hard. I mean, I don't know, people keep forgetting about Levi, and I think that's a mistake, because he, of Tom and Christian, I think is a better time trialer, and also the better climber, and he's only 8 seconds down, so he's very much still in contention. I'm really worried about him. But yeah, of course, Christian is going to be one to watch because he's obviously on good form. You saw that on Crested Butte, but it's not just a game of me versus Christian. It's there's plenty of other guys in the race, and it's going to be. Not only is it just going to be hard because it's a climb, but it's going to be tactical in that, like, I can follow one guy, I can follow 2 guys, but I can't follow 3. So I'm going to have to let one go, maybe gamble, and you know, we'll see how it plays out. But yeah, I don't know. I have a strong team, so we'll try to use them up as much as possible.
Okay, one more question for Tejay, and then we'll turn it over to Tyler and Michael.
Tejay, last year you lost the jersey on the time trial. Looking into Saturday, Sunday rather, what have you learned in the past year going into time trials where the jersey's on the line?
I don't know. I think last year was different because it was an uphill time trial. I think I went out too hard at that sort of elevation. This time trial is flat and it's at lower elevation, and it's I don't think it's. And I've done so many time trials this year and throughout my career that I find, you know, now I have a system dialed to where, you know, you just do the same thing every time, and and so far this year I haven't had a bad time trial yet, so I don't think I'm going to have one on Sunday.
Thank you, Tejay, and we'll turn our attention. Thanks, Tejay. We'll turn our attention to today's stage winner, and now in the race management Green Points jersey, Tyler Farrar. And also like to introduce Michael Creed of the Optum Health team. Michael is from Colorado Springs here. Michael, let's start with you. I know probably in the back of your mind today was marked for a long time, possibly for a stage win. But take us through the day. Take us through what you saw from a crowd standpoint in your hometown.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it would have been great to win the stage, but it was stacked against me a little bit because it was, I mean, of course we're racing with Pro Tour guys and they're the best in the world, and then obviously it's a stage built for a sprinter, which I'm not very good at. So I gave it a little go in the Garden to try to get away and get some time, but it didn't happen. But as far as racing, you know, from basically divide on roads that I ride all the time and seeing how packed it was, I mean, it seemed like the stage was playing in 20 minutes. I mean, it went by really quickly.
And the crowds in through Garden of the Gods and even downtown here, any comment?
I mean, like all the superlatives and cliches you can say, pretty much. I mean, it was really amazing. Coming down through Woodland Park, I was pointing out the fire line to people, and you know, like it was. This is, I mean, like Tejay was just up here, and he donated his first white jersey that he ever, like that's a pretty precious item, and he gave it away and showed what a class rider he is, and it fetched $2,000 for the local community. So my hats off to him.
You've raised over $35,000 roughly right now?
Yeah, just about $35,000.
On to Tyler Farrar. Tyler, can you take us through the sprint and where you were positioning yourself within the circuits and your team, and what it's like to have the Sprint Boys jersey back on to wear tomorrow?
Yeah, it's nice to have it back. I was really motivated today because it's Mike Creed's hometown, and he was my Madison partner back when I was 18. So this one's for you, buddy.
That goes on my resume.
No, it was, today's the one day that, I was almost positive would be a sprint here. Stage 1 coming down to a sprint was kind of a bonus. I didn't really think it would happen, and if it did, I wasn't that confident that I would be there. So that was nice, but today's always the day I had marked out. And the team did a whole lot of work all through the stage to make it a sprint. It was a pretty strong group in front, and we had to burn up a lot of our guys. And that's putting a lot of faith in me because our team's here to try and win the GC. And we spent a lot of energy today that we could have conserved, but I'm thankful that they put their faith in me that I could win the stage.
Open up for questions, and if you have just joined us, Tyler did win the first stage from Durango to Telluride. Questions?
This is a little bit of a general question. I was talking with Ron Kiefel, who's raced in the Tour de France several times, and we were talking about how this, you have to kind of deny as a rider how superhuman this is. How do you, basically to me, you're running a marathon every day. You run a marathon today, you get to run one again tomorrow. How do you handle that mentally? You have to kind of push in the back of your mind that this isn't as hard as it seems. How do you handle the task ahead tomorrow and all the week?
You don't go from not riding your bike at all to racing a race like this or racing the Tour de France. It's a very long, gradual process. I started racing my bike when I was 12 years old, and it's baby steps the whole way. And sometimes those steps are frustratingly small, but eventually you do get to this level, and that's the only way you can really think about it. It seems crazy to someone who hasn't gone through the whole process of getting here, but when you've done it yourself, it does seem more human.
Tyler, I don't know if you saw Caruso take off a lap early. If you did, can you comment on what you thought, and if you were thrilled to see that, knowing that you're in the running for the jersey and now you wear it?
I saw them go. I wasn't sure if they miscounted the laps or if they were trying to launch him. It is a pretty short lap, and so with the rain, it turns out the roads weren't slippery, but they looked slippery, so it was a little intimidating. So I'm not really sure what their tactic was there. To be honest, with the green jersey, I'm going to try to hang on to it, but by my math, I think it'll be pretty challenging. Tejay scored a lot of points as well. He's going to score points the next 2 days, whereas other than maybe an intermediate sprint tomorrow, I don't see myself finishing inside the points on Flagstaff or in the time trial. So it's really fun to wear it, and of course I'm going to try to hang on to it, but I think it's kind of not real likely I'll keep it all the way through.
With 1K to go, how confident did you feel that you were going to take the stage today?
I was in a good spot, but I was kind of counting the guys in front of me, and I kind of realized it was going to come up about 100 meters short, which it did, and it swarmed a little bit at 300. It was a chaotic sprint because the roads are so big and it wasn't technical, so guys could come from a long ways behind. It was pretty hard for one team to really organize. United Healthcare did a really good job, but like I say, with roads that large, it's just hard. It always swarms like that, and I got a little boxed in around 300, but I managed to find a bit of open road along the fence and make it through.
Hey, Tyler, where is your sprinting ability right now compared to, is it the level it was 2 years ago when you started, made that big jump and kind of got over the Tour de France? You had the big injuries, the Tour de France this year, but where is it right now? I think you're about peak form.
I think I'm riding well, yeah. Like I said, about the first stage, it was a stage that even if it did come to a sprint, I wasn't real confident I'd even make it there with the front of the race. So, you know, the fact that I did, that shows me that I am on decent form. I mean, I'm coming off the tour, and if you're healthy after the tour, you pretty much always have good form. Obviously, the Giro and the Tour were disasters for me personally this year. I think I've crashed more in the last 6 to 12 months than I probably have in the last 3 or 4 years combined. So, you know, it's been really frustrating, but I finally, you know, had a bit of time where I could get healthy, heal up, and, you know, I think now everything's back on track.
Final questions. Tyler's one of the 2 Americans who won a stage of all 3 Grand Tours of Spain, Italy, and France. So, prolific resume.
Tyler, your confidence has to have gone up a little bit this week. Are you doing Worlds this year?
Yes. Well, it hasn't been officially announced. I hope I'm doing Worlds. You know, it's definitely not a course for me. It's basically an Amstel Gold Race. But the U.S. has a couple riders who could do really well there. And I already talked with Mike Sayers, the road director, and I said, look, I really want to come and just do everything I can to try and help put an American on the podium. I mean, I think I can do a pretty good job of protecting whoever we designate as the leader for the first 4 or 5 hours. And, you know, then it's up to them to do the finale. But I have enough experience, I can do that job, and I'm really motivated because we have a couple guys who I think could really do big things there.
Tyler, before you go to Worlds and help a teammate tomorrow, you have a big task at hand. What do you expect to see over the first half of that stage, and what role do you expect to play in the team?
I think tomorrow's probably going to be the hardest stage of the race. I mean, the GC is still so tight. Like Tejay said a little while ago, it's pretty easy to focus just on Tejay and Christian because they're tied on time. But there's, correct me if I'm wrong here, but there's 20 or 25 guys who are all within 20 or 30 seconds. So it's still pretty open, and I expect a fair bit of fireworks. You know, going through Boulder, it's kind of one of the hotbeds of cycling in America, so I think everyone's going to want to put on a show. And personally, I mean, I want to do everything I can to try and help Christian win this race. So whatever job the team tells me to do, I'll do it with a smile.
One final question, John.
Yeah, Tyler, so many Americans base their European training in Girona or Italy. Why Belgium? What do you like about it?
I grew up through the U.S. National Development Program. I went over the first time when I was 17 years old, and they have a house in Belgium. And so I spent 4 years in that program as a junior and an espoir, and just got to know the place and made some friends outside of cycling in Belgium. And I liked it, so I stuck around. And you know, the classics are kind of my passion as a rider, and living in the heart of that, it helps a lot. I mean, 1, I get to train on those roads all the time. 2, if you're a classics rider and you don't live in Belgium, you basically have to live out of a hotel for a month every spring. And I get to, you know, sleep at home most nights during that month. So, you know, it's a small thing, but that makes a big difference.
All right, thank you, gentlemen. I do have one quote from Vincenzo Nibali that I can read. You guys are welcome to leave. Thanks, Michael. Thank you, Tyler. Vincenzo Nibali rides for the Liquid Gas Cannondale team. He was 3rd in the 2012 Tour de France, so he was the highest ranked rider in the race. He's been in 4 of the 5 breakaways over the last 5 stages of the race, and so he was the most aggressive Jersey winner today. The quote is, "My main goal is to win a stage. I came in after the Tour de France a little tired and didn't know how I'd feel. I'm feeling a little better every day. Today was a day for Caruso, though I thought I'd give it a go." And then when asked about what he thinks about the race here in Colorado, he says, in Colorado, the people are surprisingly excited for the sport of cycling. And I want to show respect to that, and I find if I can win a stage, it will be a very prestigious result.